Dropshipping isn't dead, but it should be. In this video, I'm going to cover my 5-step guide to transforming a dropshipping business into a 9-figure brand. I've had over 100+ conversations with successful dropshippers. They are all miserable. Their most recent ad account has just been banned. They have a Trustpilot score of 0.9. Their mums can't even look at them in the eye at the dinner table, but it's okay. There is a way out. And just a quick spoiler, it's not just making a pretty website and using a 3PL as lots of people think it is, although that definitely is part of it. So let's get into it. First, let's define what we mean by brand. If you ask a bunch of branding experts, they'll have their own definition for what a brand actually is. It's very similar to anything emotional and somewhat irrational. It's hard to put into words. Here's a couple of famous quotes about branding to help us understand. A brand is no longer what we tell consumers it is what consumers tell each other it is. Also, if people believe they share values with a company, they will stay longer to the brand. And finally, a brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that taken together account for a consumer's decision to choose one product or service over another. So let's take all of those quotes together and put them into measurable metrics/outputs for a business. What do we get by having a brand? The first is word of mouth referral. The second is repeat purchase rate. And the third is cheaper acquisition. Now, if we reverse engineer those three amazing things that brand creates for us, what actions and steps can we take to create brand? The first is great products. Second is great service. Third is just secondary products. Fourth is review management. And fifth is consistency in marketing. So let's break down each of those 5 categories and explain how Dropshipping Derek can fix every single one of them. Now, the first and most important is great products. So before you stop watching this video, just make sure you watch this whole first point, because I think it's 80% of what average dropshippers get wrong. The average dropshipper will get 0% word of mouth referral. And why should they expect any more than that? What customer would want to admit that they bought the ear scraper 2000 TM from an advertorial talking about why you've just got earworms or an ear infection or something stupid like that? So how do we fix this? When I started the Oodie, my website looked like this. My packaging was disgusting. My social media account was purely memes. I was an absolute idiot because all I cared about was acquisition. Yet we still ended up building an amazing brand, all thanks to one thing, the product. So let's define what a good product is. A good product is something that far surpasses the user's expectations for the desired outcome. Think of things like Tesla. When you get into one of those cars, it is just so dialed in to everything considered from the ground up for the consumer. For the Oodie, it was so thick, warm, and comfortable, people became obsessed. It didn't matter that the website was ugly because people were telling their friends just how warm and comfortable it was. So how do you fix this? The truth is, not all dropshipping products are bad, especially to begin with. As the factories in China start to compete, they all get de-specced at a really rapid rate. And this is because customer satisfaction is not at the forefront of the decision-making process. Margin is. Materials get changed, functionality gets removed, factories loosen quality controls. Then Dropshipping Derek will then get 3 quotes from 3 factories for his neck massager product, and he won't even touch the product. He doesn't even compare quality. He just goes with the cheapest supplier. After all, because he's getting the cheaper product, he can spend more on marketing than his competitors. Therefore, he gets more market share as well. This is why the product breaks as soon as the customer gets it, and it never solves the issue. So what do we do if we're already running a dropshipping product? Obviously, first seek to improve the quality of the product. Take some time to understand your customer's main pain points and what would improve their likelihood of referral, word of mouth referral. The truth is, if you do product development right, you can find huge incremental changes without reducing margin. More often than not, there's going to be some added costs here. This can be a really scary proposition, as you probably set up your business cost structures at your current margin, and you can't really make drastic changes hoping and wishing that those improvements is going to increase the word of mouth referral. And this is because your business is now set up to compete on price. So changing this is just a scary competition because there's 50 competitors in the space selling a cheaper product. So sometimes it's much easier to fix going forward than looking back through future product development. So how do we do this? I always go back to the question, why does my product need to exist? Your product doesn't need to be completely unique, but if you want to build something big and useful in this world, there needs to be something unique about it, and it needs to solve the customer's expectations. This uniqueness allows you to not compete on price. That's why the second part of this answer is to take your existing product positioning, such as hygiene, wellness, comfort, and solve the same issue or new issue within the vertical with innovation. Make it better, faster, cheaper, smaller, larger, cooler, it doesn't really matter as long as it solves the customer's needs. As soon as your product actually works, customers will do something. They'll start telling their friends about it. Think about 8 Sleep, who's doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year. There are so many other brands that solve similar issues. I was actually looking at launching a similar product with calming blankets about 4 years ago when they were just starting to take off. I was comparing product, and a lot of these other competing brands are still around today. Yet none of these competitors are talked about naturally within conversation. It's all about 8 Sleep. And it's not because 8 Sleep's website is prettier than others. It's because their product is the best on the market. The wires don't dig into your back like the others. It does improve sleep. The app has great tracking, like for health metrics, and there's just so much to love about that product. One disclaimer here is don't just invent like a slightly better mousetrap for your existing product. By introducing like a version 2 of your product with slightly better features, you're just not gonna move the needle. I won in a really competitive niche against one of my competitors because the competitor, they just kept adding really stupid features to the product that one, customers didn't really care about, and two, they were actually really hard to communicate as well. His margin went away and my market share increased because I could spend more on ads. By using word of mouth and customer acquisition as the North Star of product development, beginners will start to make way better decisions. So that brings us to step 2, great service. I was doing Everest Base Camp and I was wearing a Patagonia fleece jacket. I was in some rundown cabin almost at the top of the mountain, and there were some other hikers there. And there was this small tiny feather popping out of my jacket. And the lady sitting next to me, completely unprovoked, said, "You know they'll fix that for you and replace it no matter how old it is." Now, I don't have any idea how true that is, but think about that for a second. To have customer service so good that a defect becomes a positive word of mouth conversation at the top of a mountain. Your customer service is either a subtractor or a tractor to your brand. And almost all dropshippers have terrible service due to their logistics. So how do we fix this? Dropshipping involves shipping straight from China to Australia. This can take 7 days to 5,000 days, knowing some of these freight lines. Unfortunately, it also makes the return process almost impossible, which is, in my opinion, almost just as bad as long shipping times. Lucky, it's a simple fix. We can get a good 3PL and import the inventory so our shipping times are 2 to 8 days. It's often actually cheaper, contrary to people's beliefs, and all you need to do is navigate the negatives of cash flow reduction and inventory management. Now, one disclaimer here is some dropshippers really rely on not having to pay import duties into countries by shipping from China. Unfortunately, this might make this point really unsolvable if you are already competing on price. So do your research and solve what you can. Ideally, you pick products where this is impossible, like unique designs in clothing, larger products, more expensive. That way you're not competing on price and you can actually import the goods and provide a good service. That brings us to step 3, launch secondary feature products. Launching secondary products is not only the reward of having a brand, but it also reinforces your brand. If product is the most important factor to whether a customer emotionally connects, remembers, and then talks about your business, then releasing more amazing products amplifies this. Secondary products result in all 3 of our target metrics. More repeat purchases, because now we're offering another solution in the same vertical. Cheaper acquisition, as we have a great customer list that's now primed to purchase. And word of mouth referral, as we have more customers to actually talk about our product. I've seen some dropshippers launch secondary products on their store, but realistically, they're just putting the products in completely separate funnels. The results will be similar, possibly even better, if they just used a completely new brand and new funnels. So how do we fix this? There's 2 main reasons why we launch secondary product. The first one is obviously attract new customers. The second one is attract existing customers. You can't actually attract new customers or old customers until you fix your customers' perception of your brand through improving the product and the service first. Once you've fixed your service, invest in product development through designers, engineers, so every single additional launch you do, you just exceed expectation. And that brings us to step 4, good reviews. Before a provider caused us thousands of upset customers on Black Friday last year, Oodie sat at a very high Trustpilot rating with over 20,000 reviews. We'll definitely be getting it back soon. We were so committed to building up these non-manipulatable review platforms. They were the North Star of so many of our internal departments as customers trust them. And truthfully, they're just a thermometer of the product and service that you're selling, because you can't manipulate them and everyone trusts them. It's just a great way to get a gauge of your business. There's a reason why every single mattress brand brands used this as their main unique selling proposition for so long. Look at Koala Mattresses, Casper, Purple. They were all claiming that they were the top reviewed mattress on a different review website. And this is because it works. Customers use reviews to study what is the best brand for that product category. They form an opinion on the brand before they even touch the product. It reduces customer acquisition costs drastically for those who are looking at those platforms. It also ensures your Facebook feedback score is high, improving your relationship with your main advertising platform. But dropshippers avoid these platforms as they know their score will be less than 2 due to all of the issues we talked about above. So how do we fix this? Once you've fixed the obvious long shipping times and poor quality products, set up your email flows to prioritize these real review sites. You can also train, track, and reward your customer service team to prioritize these metrics, knowing they are a good indicator of brand. And this brings us to our final step, consistent messaging. I was watching a CEO be interviewed online the other day about how they could be so much bigger if they stopped taking such a controversial stance on a controversial topic. The interviewer said something along the lines of, "You're frustrating the majority of Americans." Without hesitation, the CEO said, "I would rather frustrate these people if it means that I stay true to our target audience, our target customer." Dropshippers rely on direct response. This means they're doing everything they can to get a trackable return on investment. They're trying to get people to buy then and there. It doesn't matter if there's inconsistency in messaging, design, or product, because there is no need for future interaction. Now, don't get me wrong, direct response marketing is probably in the best top 3 skill sets that any founder needs to know. It's the reason why I am where I'm at today. But the argument that it gets cheap acquisition, I believe, is a fallacy. The proof is in the numbers. Go find me the best teeth whitening dropshipping business out there. Give me the best VSL or the highest converting advertorial. Now compare it to HighSmart, who thinks that they'll do over $1 billion in revenue this year, who has cheaper acquisition and therefore can spend more on ads. Now, I struggled with this dilemma for such a long time, and it's because I was asking myself the wrong question. I was asking myself, do I want something on brand or something that converts? The answer is, it depends how much better it converts or how much more it reinforces my brand. We should be able to achieve both. So how can we do that? Before we can fix it, we first need some brand guidelines so that we know what on brand even means. So create some basic branding guidelines by yourself with a creative director or even just a cheap agency. For those that don't know what it is, it's basically a deck with your brand story, such as mission, vision, and values. 2, your logo, as well as logo usage, how to actually use it. 3, your color palette, primary and secondary colors. 4, typography, fonts for different types of content. 5th, imagery, like guidelines for types of image, social media, these kind of things. 6th, your tone of voice, like how the brand communication is actually written and spoken, and a few more elements. So now we have this deck. How do we use the guidelines when making decisions going forward? As a first-time founder, because you pretty much have no capital, no time, and you don't even have an existing audience, the vast majority of our decisions are going to be on a direct response basis, especially with the following touch points like Facebook ads, Google ads, landing pages, email, packaging, product, organic social, all of those main touch points. That being said, we should also be submitting A/B test options, which we deem to be more in line with what you would expect for your brand. Let me give you some examples. Let's say we're building out a new landing page for a beauty product. You're currently using a super direct response page that has, random stock footage, tacky 3D renders, like popping pimples, all of that kind of stuff. There's no consistency on the page as you've just been adding stuff as you go. What's the next step so we can get some consistent messaging here? Start adding some A/B tests that are actually on brand against the control and pushing the overall aesthetic to the correct direction while increasing performance. People say that only direct response strategies work, but they don't even bother submitting a branded variable. Eventually, you'll start introducing assets that are on brand that outperform the lazy direct response tactics. If the really direct response stuff beats the brand stuff, then you've just got a decision to make. Maybe for the first year, you do have a lot more leniency with the direct response stuff, but eventually you need to start making some branded decisions. Now, I have used some trigger language in this video. I kind of dismissed dropshipping. My stance on dropshipping is it's a really great tool for beginners to learn due to capital constraints and risk reduction. However, if your goal is to build a meaningful and long-lasting business, you should be looking to build a brand as soon as possible because it's one of the only true moats in e-commerce. If you're doing over $1 million in revenue, don't forget to check out Daily Mentor. Peace.